If you watch this video until the end, you'll finally know the exact order to protect your money before the 2026 crash hits. These are the steps that could keep you from losing years of savings in a matter of weeks. And you know what absolutely blows my mind? Seeing people scramble to invest more aggressively right now, like they're speeding toward a cliff and flooring the gas pedal because everyone else is doing it. It's the financial equivalent of building a house on sand minutes before a storm, then acting shocked when everything collapses and wondering why their money keeps disappearing. Are you worried about a potential market crash wiping out your hard-earned savings? You're not alone. Many experts acknowledge predictions of a potential economic downturn in 2026, driven by several key factors. One concern is a potential AI bubble burst, where a sudden fall in AI investment could push the U.S. jobs market into a full-blown recession. High stock market valuations and record levels of margin debt also raise red flags, potentially leading to a significant market correction. A declining consumer confidence index often signals an oncoming recession, reflecting widespread public anxiety about the economy. Furthermore, concerns about rich countries living beyond their means could trigger a bond market crisis. Historically, events like the Great Depression and the 2008 financial crisis taught us valuable lessons about financial prudence and diversification. Notably, Fred Harrison predicted a global collapse in 2026 based on his 18-year cycle model related to land markets. Now, let's dive into actionable steps to protect your money, starting with building an emergency fund. This fund should cover 3 to 6 months of living expenses, acting as a crucial safety net for unexpected job loss or medical bills. Aim for an initial goal of $1,000, then work towards that 3 to 6 month target, keeping funds in a high-yield savings account. Next, prioritize paying down high-interest debt to free up cash flow and reduce financial strain. Methods like the snowball or avalanche approach can help you tackle these debts effectively. Creating a budget and limiting spending is also vital. Track your expenses to identify areas where you can cut back. Differentiate between essential and non-essential spending, cutting back on things like dining out or in used subscriptions. Diversifying your investments across different asset classes like stocks, bonds, and real estate reduces risk. Consider investments in retirement accounts, mutual funds, and real estate, and explore sectors that perform well during recessions, such as healthcare and utilities. Bonds and fixed income investments also play a crucial role in providing stable income during downturns. Finally, consider safe haven assets like gold, which acts as a hedge against stock market losses and inflation. Precious metals tend to perform well during market slowdowns, as do treasury bills and short to intermediate tips. During a downturn, it's important to rebalance your portfolio periodically to maintain your desired asset allocation. Avoid panic selling, stay focused on long-term growth, and resist emotional decisions. Dollar cost averaging, investing a fixed amount regularly regardless of market conditions, is a smart strategy. For personalized guidance, always consider seeking advice from a qualified financial advisor. In summary, taking proactive steps now is crucial to protect your money before any potential economic shifts. Build an emergency fund, pay down high-interest debt, budget wisely, diversify investments, and consider safe haven assets. While economic downturns can be scary, preparedness can help you weather the storm and emerge financially stable. My name is Mac, and I spend an unhealthy amount of time studying financial risk, market psychology, and why so many people prepare for downturns in the exact wrong sequence. I've watched investors survive crashes they had no business surviving, and I've watched others fall apart under pressure that should have been manageable. And here's the pattern I keep seeing. People don't get hurt because they picked the wrong investment. They get hurt because they built their financial house out of order. So if you're someone who wants a calm, logical, step-by-step system to protect your money before volatility shows up, if you want to avoid panicking when the headlines turn red, and if you want a clear framework to weather whatever 2026 brings, mild, severe, or nothing at all, then you're exactly who this video is for. And hey, if this breakdown ends up saving you from one of those expensive mistakes people always wish they could undo, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and drop a like. It tells YouTube that videos built on logic, not hype, deserve to be seen. Imagine you're living in a house, and there's a massive storm forming in the distance. You don't know if it's going to hit your street directly, slide past your neighborhood, or fizzle out into nothing. But you do know one thing. If it hits, whatever part of your house is already weak, that's exactly where it will break. So what do most people do? They start rearranging the furniture, buying nicer lamps, painting the guest room. Meanwhile, the roof is leaking, the windows don't seal properly, and the foundation has cracks you could slip a credit card into. That's how most people prepare for market volatility. They obsess over which asset will hold up best in a downturn, while ignoring the financial equivalent of a cracked foundation, a flimsy roof, and unsecured windows. No cash buffer, fragile debts, concentrated income risk, and portfolios built on hope instead of structure. Here's the cost of getting this wrong. A downturn doesn't just test your investments. It tests your liquidity, your psychology, your job stability, and your timeline. If you have the wrong weaknesses exposed, even a mild correction can force you into panic mode. That's how people end up selling at the bottom, freezing their investments for years, or digging themselves into holes that take a decade to climb out of. Crashes don't destroy disciplined investors. They expose unprepared ones. And this is exactly why the order you follow matters more than any prediction about 2026. Protect the foundation first, then the structure, then the roof, and only deploy diso voce mex na decreceo. Now that you understand the metaphor, it's time to walk through the real blueprint, the smartest, most resilient sequence to protect your money before the storm hits. Once your financial shock absorber is in place, it's time to deal with something far more dangerous. The financial equivalent of live explosives sitting under your floorboards. We're talking about fragile debt, high-interest debt, and variable rate debt. This is debt that grows faster during stress and tightens its grip exactly when the economy loosens yours. Carrying this kind of debt into a potential downturn isn't just a financial choice. It's like walking into a storm holding a metal pole above your head. Because here's what many people forget. A market drop doesn't just reduce the value of your investments. It significantly increases the weight of every fragile debt you carry, making your financial burden much heavier. If interest rates rise, your payments rise. If your income wobbles, your margin disappears. If credit tightens, lenders get aggressive exactly when you're most vulnerable. You absolutely do not want to be at the mercy of a credit card company during a recession. So let's be clear about the rule. Any debt charging more than approximately 8% annually becomes a priority threat. Not later, not eventually, but now. Credit card debt, personal loans, variable rate balances, they're not just expensive, they're explosive under pressure. Let me show you just how destructive this can be with a simple example. If you're carrying $5,000 at a 22% interest rate and only make minimum payments, you'll hand over thousands of dollars in pure interest across a few years. This is money that could have been working for you, money that could have been compounding, money that could have bought you security instead of anxiety. Every dollar used to pay down high-interest debt is a guaranteed return equal to the interest rate. If you eliminate 22% debt, that's essentially a 22% risk-free return on your investment. Most investors never see numbers like that, not even in the most robust bull markets. So here's your sequence for tackling this debt effectively. First, list every debt you have, along with their interest rates and minimum payments. Then, pay minimums on everything, ensuring you don't miss any payments. Finally, throw every spare dollar you have at the highest interest debt first. This is known as the avalanche method, mathematically the most efficient way to eliminate risk and save money. Some people prefer the snowball method, paying off the smallest balances first for psychological wins. That's fine for motivation, but the avalanche method saves you more money and removes the most dangerous liabilities fastest. And here's the twist. Not all debt is toxic. Some debts are just unpleasant. But high interest, variable, volatile debt? That's not unpleasant. That's a structural weak point waiting to collapse at the worst possible time. Once you disarm these financial time bombs, you unlock the next, and most surprising, part of this sequence. Because protecting your money isn't just about what you owe. It's about protecting the source of the money itself.
Today, we're diving into a crucial, yet often overlooked, aspect of financial resilience: protecting your income before an economic downer. This is the part that often surprises most people, because protecting your money isn't just about safeguarding your existing assets. It's fundamentally about protecting the very engine that generates those assets, your income. Many individuals dedicate significant time to adjusting their investment portfolios, meticulously shifting allocations, and debating the merits of defensive stocks. They ponder whether gold, cash, or bonds will offer the best protection, yet often overlook the precarious position of their actual income. That paycheck, which funds all their investments in daily life, could be sitting metaphorically on the edge of a cliff. Here's a crucial, hard truth to consider. Your job, your industry, and your specific skill set are all valuable assets. However, all three of these can become incredibly fragile and vulnerable during an economic downer. If your work is concentrated in a highly cyclical sector, or if your company is already implementing budget cuts and layoffs, your income is at risk. Furthermore, if your role is susceptible to automation, outsourcing, or consolidation, or if your income heavily relies on commissions or bonuses that disappear during recessions, you face significant vulnerability. In such scenarios, no amount of sophisticated asset allocation will truly protect you if your primary paycheck collapses. It's akin to meticulously reinforcing the roof of your house, while completely ignoring the fact that the very ground beneath its foundation is eroding away. So, let's explore what truly comprehensive income protection entails, starting with evaluating your income's fragility. Ask yourself honestly, what would happen to my job if my entire industry experienced a significant slowdown? How exposed am I to potential layoffs, reduced working hours, or a significant drop in client demand and churn? Does my income tend to decrease at precisely the same time that financial markets are also experiencing a downturn? These introspective questions alone can illuminate critical blind spots that many people never even consider. Next, focus on strengthening your skill base, not necessarily by returning to school for years, but by becoming indispensable. The individuals who successfully retain their employment during economic downturns are not always the most inherently talented. Instead, they are often the ones who are simply the hardest to eliminate from their roles. Learn the high-value tasks within your field and strive to become the go-to person who solves the complex problems nobody else wants to tackle. Third, consider building what we call micro-income streams. This isn't about taking on a second full-time job or launching a new business. Instead, these are small, lightweight sources of income that can continue to flow even if your main income experiences a temporary wobble. An economic crash becomes far less terrifying and impactful when you are not entirely dependent on a single paycheck for your survival. Finally, diversify your exposure to your employer. This means assessing where your financial risks are concentrated. For example, if both your income and your investments are heavily tied to the same industry, you are essentially doubling up on your risk. This is precisely how individuals can lose both their job and a significant portion of their investment portfolio at the exact same moment. You certainly don't want all your lifeboats tied to the same sinking ship when a crisis hits. Income protection may not seem glamorous. It doesn't feel like traditional investing in the way most people perceive it. You can't easily screenshot it or boast about it on social media platforms. However, during a genuine economic downturn, income protection transforms into your most vital shield, your source of stability. It becomes the fundamental reason you avoid making fear-driven financial decisions that could haunt you for years to come. Once your income is robustly reinforced and secured, you are finally prepared for the part most people mistakenly believe they should start with: optimizing your investment portfolio.
Now that your foundation is reinforced, you've got a shock absorber, you've defused high-interest debt, and you've stabilized your income. You're finally ready for the step everyone wants to start with: your portfolio. This is where Max sees people make their most predictable mistakes. Not because they pick terrible investments, but because they rearrange their portfolio with the same mindset people use when they rearrange their living room. They ask, "How does this look?" instead of "How does this fail?" A strong portfolio isn't built around what performs best in the good times. It's built around what doesn't break when the wind hits. So here's the real sequence for portfolio protection, the order that actually matters. First, liquidity. Can you access cash without panicking? In a downturn, liquidity becomes oxygen. If all your money is locked in long-term assets, or if selling triggers massive taxes or penalties, you'll be forced into decisions you didn't choose. People say, I don't need liquidity. I'm investing for the long term. Yes, until something in your life reminds you that the long term is built on a series of short terms. You don't need to liquidate your entire portfolio, but you do need enough access so you never sell at the bottom because life cornered you. Liquidity is not about opportunity. Liquidity is about survival. Next, upgrade quality. A crash separates strong from weak. A correction, mild or severe, doesn't treat all assets equally. High-quality companies, durable business models, and assets with solid balance sheets bend, they don't snap. Lower quality positions, they don't dip, they evaporate. Mac's rule here is simple. If you wouldn't buy more of an asset in a downturn, you probably shouldn't be holding it during a downturn. Quality protects you from permanent loss. Speculation exposes you to permanent regret. Third, diversification that actually diversifies. Most people believe they're diversified because they own multiple stocks in multiple sectors on the same exchange, in the same country, with the same economic drivers. That's not diversification. That's the illusion of safety. True diversification means spreading exposure across different behaviors, not just different names. Different asset classes, different geographies, different risk profiles, different cycles, and different correlations. Owning 10 tech stocks isn't diversification. It's 10 different ways to get punched by the same problem. Fourth, match time horizons. Short-term money cannot live in long-term assets. Here's one of the most overlooked truths in portfolio design. The danger isn't volatility. The danger is needing money at the wrong time. If you need the money in 12 to 24 months, it should not be tied to something that may drop 30% next quarter. But if you don't need the money for 10 plus years, short-term volatility is just noise pretending to be danger. Matching horizons prevents forced selling, the single most destructive action during downturns. Fifth, don't chase the one asset hedge myth. Every crash has its favorite safe haven asset, and people flock to it like seagulls chasing a French fry. Sometimes it's bonds, sometimes it's gold, sometimes it's cash, sometimes it's a specific sector. Here's the uncomfortable truth. No single asset protects you from everything, but the right mix protects you from almost anything. People who go all in on one savior asset aren't safe. They're concentrated in a different direction. You're not trying to predict the storm. You're trying to survive any storm. Finally, rebalance intentionally, not emotionally. If markets dip before 2026, a well-protected portfolio might end up overweight in safer assets and underweight in growth. That's when disciplined investors rebalance. Not because they're guessing the bottom, but because they're following the plan they made before emotions got involved. Rebalancing is how you quietly buy low and sell high without trying to be clever. When your portfolio is liquid enough to avoid panic, high quality enough to endure stress, diversified enough to avoid single-point failure, and aligned with your time horizon, then you're no longer trying to predict the future. You're prepared for it. And that's exactly why you're ready for the next layer. The optimization zone. The part most people never reach. Here's the part nobody prepares for. The part that determines who survives a downturn calmly and who gets emotionally dragged through the mud. Because even if you build the perfect structure, cash buffer, no fragile debt, strong income, upgraded portfolio, optimized accounts, none of it matters if you fall apart psychologically when volatility hits. A crash doesn't break portfolios first. It breaks people first. So before any downturn shows up, 2026 or otherwise, you need a written, simple, unbreakable crash mode plan. And this plan is what Max sees separate disciplined investors from panicked ones every single cycle. Let's walk through it step by step. This sounds strange, but it's crucial. You need guardrails. Because during a downturn, fear whispers the same thing into everyone's ear: sell now, before it gets worse. But here's the truth. Fear isn't giving you financial advice. Fear is trying to escape discomfort. So your crash mode plan starts with a hard rule. I will not sell long-term assets because of fear or headlines. Not because you're stubborn, but because you already built the foundation to avoid panic. You don't need price targets. You need behavior checkpoints. Questions like, has my income changed? Do I still have my shock absorber? Did any debt become dangerous? Has my long-term plan changed? These matter far more than whether the market is down 10%, 20%, or 30%. Crashes hurt only when your life and your portfolio collide at the same moment. Your checkpoints prevent that collision. Rebalancing during a downturn is where rational investors quietly outperform, not because they timed the bottom, but because they followed a rule they wrote before emotions entered the chat. Your rule might look like, if equities fall far enough that my allocation drifts significantly, I rebalance once, calmly. If one asset balloons because others fell, I reallocate back to target. Notice what this avoids: impulsive selling, bottom chasing, emotion-driven overcorrection. Rebalancing is not prediction, it's discipline. During downturns, most people fall into two traps. Trap 1, everything is on sale, buy everything. Trap 2, everything is collapsing, buy nothing. Your crash mode plan beats both by giving you predetermined rules. Maybe you deploy small amounts at predefined intervals. Maybe you only add if income is stable. Maybe you only act after your core allocation is intact. There's no universal rule, but your rule must exist before emotions spike. Opportunity is optional. Stability is not. One of the strongest moves during a downturn is inactivity. Not paralysis, not avoidance, just calm, informed stillness. Because sometimes the best decision is not to add, not to adjust, not to optimize, but simply to stick to the system you built. If your structure is solid, a crash isn't a threat. It's noise. And that brings us to the final chapter, the recap, the contrast, and the reason all of this puts you years ahead of people who rely on predictions instead of preparation.
So let's pull everything together. The full sequence, the actual blueprint for protecting your money before any downturn, whether it happens in 2026 or 10 years from now. This comprehensive guide will equip you with the strategies needed to safeguard your financial future against market volatility. Here's the smartest order, a step-by-step framework designed to build your financial resilience. First, build your financial shock absorber. Cash isn't about return, it's about control. It gives you time, options, and calm during uncertain economic periods, acting as your immediate buffer. Next, disarm the financial time bombs. High interest and fragile debt drain you faster during stress than any market drop ever could. Prioritize paying down these liabilities to free up your cash flow and reduce financial pressure. Third, protect your income. Your paycheck is the engine behind every investment you make. If that engine fails, the whole system shakes, impacting your ability to maintain financial stability. Ensure you have adequate insurance and emergency plans in place to secure this vital asset. Fourth, reorganize your portfolio for resilience. Liquidity, quality, diversification, and time horizon, not predictions, determine who survives volatility. Focus on assets that can withstand market fluctuations and provide stability when needed most. Fifth, optimize your structure. Put the right money in the right bucket so taxes, penalties, and bad account locations don't force your hand. Strategic allocation can significantly reduce unnecessary financial drains and maximize your long-term growth. Finally, create your crash mode plan. Behavior beats brilliance. Discipline beats panic. Structure beats fear. This plan outlines your actions during a downturn, preventing emotional decisions from derailing your strategy. Most people won't do this. They'll keep trying to guess the exact date of a downturn, rearranging furniture while their financial foundation is cracked. But not you, because once you follow this sequence, you stop being the person who reacts to markets, and you become the person who is prepared for whatever markets decide to do. Crashes don't favor the smartest investors. They favor the prepared ones. And future you, the version of yourself who stays calm while everyone else panics, will thank you for doing the boring, unsexy, foundational work today.